So I'm going to walk through different areas of the viewer and demonstrate what they do. The first area that I'll just take you through is what's called the file taskbar. So all these different sections that we're about to view, they're all a part of the existing or the legacy web viewer. They've just been moved basically, and some functionalities might look a little bit different. So I just wanted to go through them. So the file taskbar, as Lee referred to previously, the file being the digital manila folder, can be found down the left-hand side here. The different buttons on the taskbar, first of all, we've got the file tree at the top here, which we're all used to seeing. The next button down is the file search, which is where you can perform a search. I'm going to perform a search here within inside the same project that I'm in. So for example, I could open up this Rocky's Music invoice, and now I've actually got two invoices opened in my viewer. However, they are separate invoices. It's just for a reference sake. And then down the bottom here, we've got our file details, which we're all used to seeing and using. An important point to mention with the file details is the save button down the bottom here. So if I did need to make a change to one of these values, you'll notice the save button will go green. It's identified that, hey, Mr. User or Mrs. User, a change has been made and you need to commit that change. You need to press save. The thing to note with the save button is that as I scroll, the save button doesn't move. So it's now glued to the bottom of the file detail screen, which is great because that means that there's less chances of users not pressing save. Finally, down the bottom here, we've got our file notes where I could record a note. As you can all tell, I can't type and talk at the same time. As Lee mentioned, in version 7.5, we'll also have the journaling feature, which will come into play as well, which is going to be fantastic. The next section that we'll talk about is the file toolbar. So the file toolbar is the bar across the top, which is the same place that it used to exist. Up the top here, we've got the opportunity to add documents to the file via upload. For those who don't know, you can also in FileBound add documents simply by dragging and dropping. So if I drag and drop, we'll bring this new document into the file, and it's all part of this digital manila folder now. So we've got upload, scan, and then forms and form processes that correspond to the process that has been set up by administrators. The next one across is our route button. So by pressing route, I'll just jump on my invoice. By pressing route, I can now choose to route an invoice down a predefined workflow that's available to me as a user. We have the option to download the current document. So I've just downloaded that invoice there. And obviously then I can go and do whatever it is that I need to do with that invoice. I can print the invoice and then share that invoice via link or via an email. And then there's a couple of options under more here. So I could open the file up in the Windows viewer. I can delete the document if I have permissions to do so, and I can split the screen in case I need to load up multiple documents in one view. Now, I do need to point out that a number of these options here, for example, printing, downloading, workflow routing, sharing, are all controlled via permissions. So not everyone in the organization may be able to do that because of company policy, but it's all controlled via the permissions. Okay, so the next area that we're going to look at is called the content toolbar. So this is, as you can see at the top of the document. These are pretty self-explanatory. So with the content toolbar, you'll see my next document and previous document options up here. By clicking on those, I'm actually going to skip through the file, skipping to various documents that I have loaded in this file. These are pretty self-explanatory. We can rotate the document, we can zoom the document in. If it was a multi-page document, I could jump to a page if I needed to. The next section is the content taskbar. So that's down the right-hand side of the document now. So down here, different areas we've got in the content taskbar is the document information. So at the top here, we've got all the information about the file, including document notes. Once again, there's our save button there. If I was to append some notes in here, I can commit that to the document. The next section down is the signatures area, so I have the option to sign the document. We've then got revisions. Now, I believe I should have some revisions on this Word document here. So here's my current version of this document. So this is the version control that Lee was mentioning earlier. And if I click on this one here, you can see that my second line has disappeared. Now it's reappeared. So with FileBound, if you didn't know, you have the capability of versioning documents, particularly useful for contract building, for example. The next icon down that we have is annotations. So under the annotations, if need be, I could, for example, come in here and redact out a section of the document and save that redaction. So there are a number of other things you can do, obviously, as you can see, stamping documents and writing on them and so forth. I gave myself a visual cue here that I didn't mention. That's for TIFF files. So you can redact on the TIFF files. And finally, the last button down here in the content taskbar is the workflow options. So you'll notice this is a big change. Previously, workflow sit at the bottom here underneath the document. They've now been moved over onto the right-hand side, onto the content taskbar, which is fantastic because it gives us the opportunity then to lay these workflow features out from top to bottom, and putting the most common up the top and so forth. While I'm in this section, I'll just click on this map here. One of the things when I've gone out and visited with clients that's been made apparent is some of our users, a frustration that they have in their everyday job, whether they be in accounts or HR or going about their everyday work, is knowing where a document is at in a workflow process. With the correct permissions, users can have this map icon up here. And if I click on that icon, what it'll do is it'll open up a very simplified version of the workflow and show me as a user exactly where that is in the process. So understanding this is like a two-step process. If this workflow was a lot bigger, it would show me where it's been and how it got to me and the options I have and who I can send it to. So that can be very useful from a very quick educational perspective for users to know where documents are in workflow. So the next section we'll cover off is the file relations, which is this little section down the bottom here. We've got our line items that can be attached to, in this case, an invoice. And like I said, now we're able to rename what that looks like so it makes more sense to the user. Importantly, you've got the options to add lines and delete lines and obviously commit changes or save changes as need be.